Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Villa Park Village Board. Today is August 12th at 7 p.m. Clerk Kornecki, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Silella?
Here.
Trustee Cazone?
Here.
Trustee Murphy? Here. Trustee Patrick?
Here.
Trustee Tucker?
Here.
Trustee Wagner?
Here.
President Wolfus?
Here. Kelvin Fleming will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, so please all stand and remain standing for a prayer after the pledge.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelvin. And please remain standing for a short prayer. Trustee Wagner.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace as we make decisions that might affect the residents, staff, businesses, surrounding communities, and all those that enter the village of Villa Park. And continue to remind us that all we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comments on agenda items. We'd just like to ask that item number 5 on the feasibility study, if anybody has any questions on that, we'll take questions on that when we get to item 5. But if anybody has any questions on items 6 through 9, do we have anybody signed up, Clerk Kornecki?
Not for a non-agenda.
Okay.
Or agenda, yeah, no agenda items.
Okay.
No, sir.
All right, with that, we'll move. Anybody have anything on agenda items? No? Okay. We will move on to the amendments to the agenda. Any board members have any amendments? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go on down to number 5, the presentations from the Parks and Recreation Feasibility Study results. And with Pro Consulting, we have Leon Younger here, and he has a short presentation, and then we'll go into some questions. It's all yours.
Is this on?
Yep. Just hold it up.
Well, good evening. My name is Leon Young, President Wolfus, and members of the Village Council. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you
Go.
this update of the study findings and recommendations for the feasibility study for either a recreation center or an outdoor pool or a combination of both. So this is I know all of you have received the full feasibility study report and the executive summary, so you're aware of what is in it, as well as what we've articulated, what we see as your needs in this community. Just a little bit about Pros Consulting. I've been in this Parks and Recreation business for the last 45 years and was a director in 4 different systems throughout the United States. My last stint was the director of Indianapolis. And we have been doing Parks and Recreation consulting work throughout the country for the last 25 years and done a lot of feasibility studies here in the Chicago market. So I think part of this is just getting everybody to understand what a feasibility study is about and what we're articulating through this process. So I'll just share with you the background of our work. We'll address the Iowa Community Center, outdoor aquatics, operational assessment, and recommendations. So to begin with, we recognize the challenge that you're faced with your aging facilities and the infrastructure that's associated with that. You've got the community center is 60 years old, as well as Jefferson Pool is 60 years old. Both of these facilities are lack some modern amenities, and also and this has been demonstrated through the last really almost 10 years. The recognition for the evaluation of the pools have been an issue for you for the last 10 years. Part of that was work done by Williams Architects back in 2013, really talked about the issues associated with non-compliant and current codes, state swimming pool regulations, and issues, primary deficiencies associated with the pools. And in the process of doing that, these were the things that they basically outlined: deterioration of existing concrete, severe irritation of existing painted pool finish, major water loss, pool floor inlet supply issues, condition of original underground main draining pipes, those things that really affect the pool. And quite frankly, in the business of Parks and Recreation, if you can get 45 years out of a pool, it's in most aquatic architects, they say that's a wonderful level of life cycle, and you're in the 60s. So it says that you've done really well managing what you have. And at the same time, I think the recognition that your public knows that any one of these facilities could put you at risk. 2015, you did the master plan for the Parks and Recreation system. At that time, existing facilities were basically identified as tired. There may be some challenge with the existing staffing structures on taking on anything new or larger facilities. There's some reliance on the school district for facility use, something not necessarily viewed as a long-term solution because their needs are great and it's hard to get consistent time within them. Some of the things that were identified then that are still identified in the public process that we went through, meeting rooms to serve more exercise types of programs, multi-gymnasium court, fitness areas, childcare, senior activities, walking track, aquatics facilities, parking were spaces that people recognized as needed, as well as specific program needs at that time, before and after school programs, physical therapy, concession sports programs for basketball and volleyball and swim lessons. So through that process, we recognized not only what happened in 2015, but even when we were doing the engagement process for this, people were still split back in 2015 regarding a need for an updated recreation center as being most needed, or whether there was a need for additional or improvement to aquatic facilities. And so I just bring this forward because as we were going through this process, through the public process, and even through the survey, it still demonstrates that there's a split. It's not a real strong effort one way or the other. People are either for aquatic facility or they're for a community center. And when you really look at the survey, the most support is to repair both of them and update them both. I mean, you have the most support for that. So I think the intent here as we move forward from the 2015 master plan and the recommendations is it really just demonstrates that your community wants quality of life facilities and they recognize that there's limitations within the village of how you would go about being able to support both of them. So when we started this process, there's always a constant kind of what does a facility study mean? A lot of people get it confused with a business plan versus a feasibility study. And so I just put this up here just so everybody understands what we're talking about. A feasibility study is an assessment of the practicality of a proposed project. A feasibility study aims to objectively and rationally uncover the strengths and weaknesses of a proposed venture opportunity and threats present in the environment, which, aging facilities is a threat as an example, the resources required to carry through, and ultimately the prospect for success. So you build feasibility studies around a set of assumptions, and those assumptions are carried out through this process. So in addressing the Iowa Community Center, we started out with conducting, everybody in the village had the opportunity to fill out and send in on a link for a survey regarding their support for the various questions that we asked on the survey. Within that, we had 410 residents complete the survey. And people say, well, what is a statistically valid survey? A statistically valid survey follows the demographics of your community plus or minus 5%. So if we did the same survey 100 times, we'd get the same results plus or minus 5%. And you can see up in the blue and the yellow how closely the demographics of the survey that was returned actually met and matches the demographics of your community, so that it demonstrates the level of confidence that we have in the survey. Some of the key findings out of that was, for current amenities, was expanded aerobics room, gymnasium, and a gymnasium with a walking track. And what's the most important, so we asked people, do you have a need? And then we would ask them, how important is that need? And so they would rank those levels of amenities in terms of what's most important. So multi-purpose sport courts, room for recreation classes, senior activity social areas, and unstructured indoor play space was the most important amenities that people desired out of the survey. When it came to current programs, the top programs they'd like to see expanded was aquatic and swim lessons, healthy active lifestyle programs, sports programs and leagues, special events and community events. And then what most important new programs, children and youth camps, culinary cooking, nutrition programs, senior recreational programs, CrossFit programs, and painting and drawing classes showed up as the most important programs that the community would like to see presented by the staff to the community, to the village. So when we ask people about frequency of use, 50% of the respondents would use the new recreation center either daily or a few times a week, which is a really strong number. We normally see that number in the 38 to 40% category. Potential improvements or additions, developing a combination of aquatic center and recreation center was the most important to respondents regarding various improvements or additions. I mentioned when we started, the public was either for a pool or either for the community center, but we got the most support to do both. So a market analysis was conducted then, and we looked at the other districts, villages, and private businesses in Villa Park and the surrounding region, all located less than 15 miles away. 13 community centers were identified and assessed, which really one of the things that people asked was, we didn't want to duplicate the fitness market, or if something was saturated, why would we duplicate it or put anybody at risk that's already operating in the village? And then this helped us to understand what that was. So the most saturated services were fitness centers, indoor basketball, gymnasium, rentals, group fitness rooms, indoor walking, locking rooms, and multi-purposes. The least saturated was indoor aquatics, indoor racquetball, indoor tennis, pickleball courts, child care services, rock climbing walls, indoor batting cages, and sauna steam rooms. So then when we started looking at outdoor aquatics, same thing, it's the same model in terms of graph up there about the survey. I'm just repeating it twice, just so you recognize that it was statistically valid when it came to the aquatics. The most important amenities that people are looking for: zero depth entry pool, outdoor pool, lap lanes, and water slides. So a combination of flat water and moving water is always popular with any type of pool operation, especially outdoor pools. And the potential for use of a new aquatic center, again, 50% of the respondents would use the new aquatic center either daily or a few times per week, which is unusual to have that same split, but that's how it turned out. And then the potential, again, that the aquatic center recreation was the most important improvement that people wanted more than either one of the other. So part of that, again, the market analysis, who else is in it. We looked at 12 aquatic centers, basically to look who else was in the market and how much of the market they control. Because your residents do have the capability of going to other agencies and getting services from them, but they all pay a non-resident rate. So the most saturated analysis was an outdoor pool, kid pool, large water slide, 1 meter diving boards, water play areas, sand dry play areas, swim lessons, and facility rental. The least was, again, swim lanes, kid water slide, 3 meter diving boards, aquatic fitness spaces, and a Whirlpool outdoor hot tub. So he gives us those assumptions, kind of tell us what people are thinking. So when we looked at this, Williams Architects did an assessment, did a kind of a plan, what I call a footprint, back in 2016, and we used that information because that gave us what the community center would probably cost at 30,000 square feet. So consequently, that at 30,000 would be about $15 million to do that. Aquatic center would be about 8. Aquatic center would be have a bather capacity about 600 people. And so again, through the valid survey, respondents preferred the combination of property taxes. The sales tax was asked, and it was more favorable through a combination of property and sales tax, or an increase in sales tax was at 26%. Because we asked people how would they like to pay for their vision for either one of the facilities or both. So the current sales tax currently is 2%, which raises approximately about $8 million a year in the village right now for different types of either capital improvements or operational costs or however this village uses it. When the debt comes off and all of this debt gets paid down through a period of time, The village could apply a portion of the debt capacity to one or both of these projects. Currently, if you did both of the projects, it would be 0.35% of a cent in the village would be available to fund both projects, or if you did just the pool, it would be 0.11% of a percent of 1 penny and of a new pool, and if you did a community center, it'd be 0.23% of a penny over a 20-year period. Now, I bring that forward because I realize that you've already got obligations built into your current system regarding taking care of improvements in water systems and roads and all that kind of stuff. I get that. But, the ability to actually fund this at some point, I'm using that because that's what your voters basically said would be a combination of either property tax and sales tax as one option. We did look at a series of grant opportunities. We looked at 35 different grants. Most of the grants are really for smaller amounts of more planning type of work than they are capital work, and most of them that in this area that would support aquatics or recreation facilities were mainly through foundations, not necessarily through any kind of a federal government. There's a little bit of state money, but most of the state money is really for parks more than it is for infrastructure for community centers or pools. Operationally assessment, your user fees through membership, season passes, daily fees, and program fees are sources to help fund operational costs of a community center or a pool. And to make a community center the most effective cost recovery wise, you need to at least have these 5 spaces. 1, a gymnasium, a walking track, a wellness and fitness space for group fitness or cardio or free weights, or a pool and social gathering spaces. So the community feels like it is the center of the community and bringing the community together. Currently, your current center does not include all of those spaces right now, the community center at Iowa. So the community center with approximately 30,000 square feet would recover about 57% without a membership. And you operate your center pretty much as a program center, not as a membership and a program center. And so that's a different philosophy than a lot of the other communities around you that we did benchmark, because they have a membership and they have and operate them as both membership and program centers. So if you did that, then that would move that to a 75 to 80%, but your community is used to just paying for programs, and that gets them access to your facilities, okay? And a new aquatic center, if you projected it at 600 bather capacity with the amenities that we called out as, and this again, assumption, has the capability of generating, depending on the year, at 90% of operating costs. And a lot of people say, well, how could that be when we're not doing that now? Well, you don't have all of those amenities that you would typically put into a new aquatic center. Newer aquatic centers have wide age segment appeal. They serve multiple age groups, and they have both moving water, flat water, and warm water. And that's what helps make them operationally, functionally cost recoverable. So recommendations wise, the village should move forward and start addressing both, because you're up against it. And you're facing it, and it's just when it's going to happen is the issue. And I think it's been called out for the last 10 years. I'm just repeating and demonstrating through a lot of data in the plan. There's a tremendous amount of data that demonstrates and leads to this assumption. And based on that survey, both aquatic and indoor recreation is both a large unmet need and a high priority. And increasing the sales tax by 1/3 of a penny, the village could do both over a 20-year period. These projects are seen by the community as quality of life amenities that will serve many residents for an extensive period of time. You get 60 years out of a pool, that's a long time. And you're fortunate to be able to do that. Most agencies I work with would never get that. So, I'm open for questions.
Okay. What we'll do is if anybody from the audience has any questions on this agenda item, after that, comments on it, after that we'll open it up for questions from the board, or anybody that's here from the Parks and Rec Commission that has any questions, you feel free to chime in too. So, do we have anybody from the public who would like to comment on this item? Okay. So, seeing none, did we have anybody sign up? No?
No.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the board. Do you have any questions?
I have questions. It was my understanding we had some residents with questions. Do you guys want to come up with your questions? I can read, I've received emails from residents. I can read questions if you're willing to address resident questions.
Okay, please state your name and,
Yes.
yes.
Holly Sloan, and I had a question. Were you only asked to look at the Lions Park as a potential site, or was that site selected if looking at other potential sites?
We only looked at that site because that's the site that Williams had done the initial footprint on, and we were working off of that information.
What data was used to determine that the 26,400 square feet was the recommended facility size? For example, is that what would fit in Lions Park, or was that the size that you thought Villa Park could support?
The footprint is 30,000 square feet.
Right.
That came from Williams.
Okay. And why was that selected?
That was what the staff felt that we needed to work with, so I'm working with what they gave me, which is an assumption. This is the assumption, work with this space.
You say that Williams Architects believes that the size, the recommended size of the recommended recreation center may very well be below the critical size for successful operation if it is to be self-supporting on page 117.
Right.
How big would the facility have to be feasible, and is it possible to have that size space at Lions?
Well, typically, we didn't do a feasibility study, but 50,000 is kind of the break point of where feasibilities cross over from being subsidized to being where they can cover their cost.
Okay. You recommended that the village consider a new community recreation center. Given that the study financials indicate a new center would only recover 57%, what data points were you using in your recommendation?
The price points were the average price points from our benchmark data that we gathered, which we used because a lot of those facilities were new facilities, and so we're working off of a benchmark assumption that those facilities that are relatively been new, recently built within the last 5 years, we're working off of what they're charging for similar spaces that we would that are recommended in this feasibility study.
What would be the capital and operating cost ramifications to build a new aquatic center but not a recreation center?
Well, it's $8 million is what we're recommending to have a 600 bather capacity.
Correct. Does it change if you only do one and not the other?
No.
No. Okay. Did you also consider repairing existing facilities, or were you told to solely study building a new facility?
Well, based on what Williams had already provided to the village, they at a 60-year-old facility, they really recommended that it's already to a point of being obsolete because it doesn't meet all the state codes.
Okay. Can you give us an overview of the next step the village would have to take to make these facilities a reality?
They'd have to decide whether they wanted to pick one or the other, or do both, and determine the funding source that they felt would be most advantageous for the residents to support. And at that point, they should move into actually moving into a design development component where you get more real actual design and spaces are really carved out extensively within it, and then do a business plan that supports those spaces. Because we're working off assumption of space. A gym is 7,500 square feet. Is that one full gym, or is that two gyms? The intent of that, we're working off of a footprint, not specifically a design that's tied to a more specific design.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Seeing no one else, then we'll move to the board questions, or anybody from Parks and Rec has, board has any questions too. So,
I have 3, but I don't need to go first necessarily. Is there
No, go
anyone
right
else
ahead.
that would like to? And this might be a Parks and Rec question that you guys can help me with. We're talking about this recommendation based on 600 users of this recommended aquatic center. Can you help me to know how many users did we have if we were to add together the residents using Lufkin and the residents
That's
using
a bather
Jefferson?
capacity. That means that the maximum you could take at one time is 600 people. It's a bather capacity.
Okay, how many people did we have between both pools? I guess my question and where that's going is this recommendation going to accommodate both the residents that used to use Lufkin and the residents who are using Jefferson?
Greg, you got that?
Yes, based on our attendance from the previous years, the 600 bather load would accommodate the attendance for a day, let's say.
Because what I'm, well, and you're the subject matter expert, so I'm not by any stretch of the imagination, but I am not seeing a significant increase in the number of Jefferson pool passes based on the closing of Lufkin. So if we're hoping that this new facility is going to accommodate residents from both the north and south side of town, I would at least like to ensure that we're accommodating not just the number of pool pass users from Jefferson, but how many might be coming that were previously going to Lufkin. Another question, and I may need redirection on this as well, and it might be difficult for our audience because I doubt we have a slide on this, but on page 134 and 135, there's a side-by-side comparison of the pro forma revenues and expenses for both the proposed aquatic center as well as the proposed recreation facility. And what I'm wondering, and this might be a question for Greg as well, I have not seen, but there might be data out there that does the side-by-side comparison of both that page with our proposed recommendations along with our financials of our existing centers.
We didn't compare your center.
I would like to see a comparison of
Well,
our
I mentioned
existing-
earlier that your center operates as a program center.
Correct.
Okay. I'm not sure what your centers are. I don't know. What do you do now?
It may not be documented. I wanted to make sure I'm not missing it, but I think it would be very interesting.
Basically, she's asking, here's our performer on a new facility which has a different pricing structure than the way you're set up, okay? Based on what is occurring with the other benchmark communities that we looked at?
Right. Our community center right now, we basically do program fees. We don't do any membership fees because we don't have a weight room. We don't have basketball where we drop in, residents can drop in and work out. So that's a big component that we're missing as far as revenue.
Yeah, well, it's just a challenge to look at a new recommendation, not having the statistical data on the operations of the current centers. So that makes it somewhat of a challenge, and I think it will be an ongoing discussion as we continue to move forward as far as this membership is concerned, because to be operating at 57% is not going to be financially viable on an annual basis going forward. I think my perspective on it, and I'd be anxious for the board's input, is that we're going to be looking for some type of a compromise, because to move forward with the 57% annual is financially not the place that's optimal for us to be. I mean, can we accommodate it? Possibly, if people want to pay for it, and if they're willing to pay for it, that's completely up to them. But to make a decision on the residents' behalf that's 57% is a pretty tough call. So that would be something going forward, and we would all be open to a discussion on the membership aspect of it.
I think that's how most of the villages and cities around you operate. They all are membership-based. I mean, it's a rarity, and I've said this to Greg and Dina, it's a rarity just to have a program center. But that's the way you've operated. I'm not arguing with it. It's your philosophy.
We're missing a whole segment of the population that can come and work out, bring their kids for classes, work out. So we're missing out on a lot of potential revenue.
So your thought process is you might be leaning toward, or at least considering, changing our finance structure from program to either a combination of program and
We haven't
membership?
gone that far yet.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Okay, well, that's just where it's going to land.
Yeah, it's where it's
So
going to land.
best to bring it up now, because it's going to be under consideration
Yeah,
before we
there'll be
make a
some
decision
figures
to
we
move
have to
forward
work
on.
through. Yeah.
Then lastly, I was hoping for input from both the Parks and Rec staff as well as, I think we have some people here from the commission, just some input on your perspective on the validity of the operational information and the financial information. There's a significant amount of data in this feasibility study regarding how much space we need for different types of programs and what the finances associated with each of those spaces are. that plays an integral role into how large we make these spaces. Did you guys, really dig into this and say, hey, they're recommending that we use X number of square feet for gym space, and because it's X number of feet and it's on a per cost per square foot basis, how you guys, did you go through all that and look at it and say, hey, I'm feeling really good about the distribution of the space and the cost, the square foot cost associated with it? I think it's perhaps premature to get down to nitty gritty and say,
Yeah.
well, we're going to have knitting. But as far as the space, a lot of the statistical information and costs are associated with the size of the space, so we need to make sure that when we're looking at this.
Well, just as far as like the conceptual plans, when we're considering the 30,000 square foot facility, what can we fit in there? That's what we are basing on. Okay, if
Right.
it's 7,500 square feet for a gym, what else can we fit in? 1,500 square foot workout center, locker rooms, and then the other thought was, economies of scale, as Williams Architects would put it. Can we use that if we build a pool? Can we use the locker rooms as a joint? You use them for the rec center, you use them for the pool, you use one staff as far as check-in, that type of thing. That's kind of what we went, but everything else is basically conceptual.
And can you remind me how many square feet Iowa currently is?
We were going back and forth. I'd have to find that out. I can't recall it.
So
off the top of my
basically,
head.
with this feasibility study, we see what the residents would like to have in the community, and then we'll have to look at how many square foot that's all going to need, but then we're going to have to weigh that against the amount of dollars that we're able to generate. So it's all still kind of in flux, but this will feasibility tell us what would the residents like. I was surprised on the culinary
I
thing.
was too.
I would have
love it.
never
I think
thought
it's
of that.
wonderful.
I thought
I'm
that's
happy to see it.
So we'll get to that point. We go, okay, how many square foot can we actually afford, and how much can we afford to put the equipment in those, but culinary, we have to put in the stoves and the venting and all that. So kitchens, so we'll get there. This will help us get there.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect to get it so granular that we know the room sizes of each of
Yeah.
the spaces, but just to ensure that when we're looking at the total square foot of the facility, we feel confident that that's what we need and that's what we can accommodate at that location, and compare that to what we currently have, because then we're going to be looking at budget numbers, and when we start looking at money, that's when the rubber hits the road. So, thank you.
Trustee Wagner.
Thank you, President Poltis. I just had some kind of observations and maybe a couple questions. I appreciated your kind of illustration how the survey was statistically valid. Obviously, that's very important if you're going to do a survey. Just one question. In terms of your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, I would have thought maybe possibly you would have explored partnerships. For example, when you compare the 13 nearby park districts, for example, Oak Brook Terrace doesn't have a pool. There could be an opportunity for a partnership with them. So I thought that might have been something that could have been explored.
That's a good question. Really wasn't brought up by anybody. The discussion of a partnership that you have with the school district was the most discussed. And the difficulty in trying to partner with another public agency when their space is really critical to them, and how do we make that work? Typically, if you can do a facilities plan jointly between the city and or the village and the school district, where you're both meeting each other's needs, can really be very, very effective. But you have to have everybody wanting to work together. I'm not saying the school district doesn't, but their priorities are their priorities, and for them to have to assume supporting you is kind of secondary. Same thing happens with partnerships with other villages, is that typically, at least my experience in the Chicago market, everybody wants to take care of their residents first, and it's hard to get people outside. We just went through this in Cary. And it's hard for Cary residents to want to reach out beyond Cary to try to do a joint facility. And nobody really brought it up through this entire process, but certainly somebody said, hey, should we bring in the other partners who are potentially and actually included them in the feasibility? I could have done that, but we didn't.
Yeah, I mean, there's good models. that
Oh, yeah,
library
let me tell you,
partners-
there's good ones and there's bad ones.
Yeah. You mentioned the corporate partnerships. Are there any, and I think there was reference to Elmhurst Hospital, is there any good examples where corporate sponsorships have helped defray the cost of pools locally?
Absolutely. I live in a town of really 25,000 people, and the hospital has given $7 million to the community center. Okay, I mean, that's great. They also bought the naming rights on the trail because, I mean, they want to have some influence. I think part of that is, you know, you have to establish, are you willing to have somebody else's name? I know when we were working at Elmhurst and we helped them, the hospital was a major contributor to the wellness center that's associated with that, and they actually renewed that. Glenview as well is tied into a major hospital with their community center. They have about almost 15,000 square feet. And both of those facilities have strong, but you have to set it up. They have to be involved in the design process. They have to feel like that they're a part of it from the ground zero up. And if you're going to do it now, this would be the time to invite them into the process based on the feasibility and what we've learned out of this process that said, you know, we'd really like to see if there's an interest in, and we have been involved with that where we put out RFIs, and which is a request for information to see what the interest is. And in the town that I live in, the RFI, there were 3 hospitals that actually bid to actually be the name on that community center, okay?
Something I thought might be missing, something to defray operational costs would be concessions.
Yeah.
Are there any good examples where that?
Well, the larger your facilities are,
Yeah.
and if they're open 110 hours a week, that makes a big difference because then people want concessions. But if you're open 67, 70 hours a week, you have smaller spaces and it feels 1 or 2 dimensional, you don't get a lot out of it. It's more convenience than it is real concessions.
Just an observation, obviously the 0.35% sales tax increase to pay for both facilities over 20 years caught my eye, but it also struck that it occurred to me that an increase like that would also kind of might have a dampening effect on sales as well. So,
Well, I don't think we can have that size of a sales tax increase because we're a non-home rule community, so we're pretty well maxed out on sales tax.
You'd have to make it up when you pay down debt and be able to take some of that 2 cents that you have and apply it to one of these 2 facilities or both.
and just a question, what is the bather capacity at Jefferson?
Yeah.
I don't really memorize that because the number is so gargantuan, it doesn't even seem possible. But it's in the upper 700s or low 800s.
And so when we say bather capacity, so technically have 700 people in that pool at once? Is that what?
And on the deck, within the
on the
facility.
deck? Okay.
But a really good day at both pools when it was hot, like if we had 300 at one and 250 at another, that was a busy day for us at one time.
Gotcha. That's all I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else on this end? Yes, trustee Kazone.
A couple questions. The aquatic centers, we're all looking at indoor facilities?
No,
Or
we
is
looked
this-
at indoor and outdoor.
Okay.
You know, ideally, the indoor facilities are, if you look at what people most want, I mean, you get the maximum value, but it's the most cost.
Yeah.
So we pretty much recommended that you stay with the outdoor because that traditionally is something this part of your community really loves and wants to see a part of quality of life. But if you could afford it, I would highly recommend you do an indoor facility because your cost benefit is so much greater.
what's the difference in cost on that? Just say a percentage roughly, outdoor versus indoor, same size pool.
Oh, gosh, well, probably double
Okay.
the amount. It would be in the 12 million category.
Okay. Plus operational costs are generally more for that?
Yeah, but you generate so much more revenue out of a pool, out of an indoor facility. It's much stronger. Your memberships are strong, your dailies, your swim clubs, because you've created a year-round facility. I mean, it's always much better than an outdoor facility.
Okay. How many of these rec centers do you know of in the local area are actually self-sufficient? And how many of them,
That's a good
are
question.
relatively not self-sufficient?
Well, I know Glendale is self-sufficient. I know that Carroll Stream is. Okay, we were involved with that one. And I'm almost sure Naperville is. Okay, and I'm almost sure Elmhurst is. I mean, numbers change. We worked with Elmhurst like 7 or 8 years ago. We did Carroll Streams like 6 or 7 years ago. So I mean, as these things come around, I don't want to have them right in front of me, but I can tell you that it changes within the way they operate. And if you're really interested in any of those, go see them, because what I'm talking about in terms of 3 levels of water and 3 temperatures of water was what makes those facilities really work. Moving water, flat water, and then warm water, and having 3 different sets of pools makes a big difference. And in Glenview, they have the hospital there, which also has a therapy pool, and the therapy pool generates an enormous amount of money in a very small amount of space, because they get so many medical insurance dollars to support the activities for the people who are walking and rehabbing.
Last question. I know there's been some questions about, refurbishing and reusing facilities. Jefferson Pool obviously is 60 years old. What are your thoughts of tearing it down and rebuilding in that same spot? Or is it cheaper just to build a new facility in a different spot?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not an architect, so I really have to lean on what Williams would say. Sometimes doing a rehab, it can really pay off well, but I'm not the architect on this deal.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth a rehab, because we went through that with Lufkin. But just completely tear it down and rebuild it in that same spot.
Yeah, I mean, I like the location of it. I mean, you have space around it to expand if you needed to. And to me, and then you've got the community center right next to it. So you're maximizing the value of the space and also connectivity of selling. But again, I really have to ask the Williams folks.
Okay. Good.
May I
Thank you.
bounce off the next comment while we're talking about Jefferson? I personally, and it's not about me, it's about our residents, but personally, I think we did a terrible disservice by reducing our swimming amenities from 2 down to 1. I think having a north side and a south side pool is a much better distribution of the aquatics, and I would be interested in a consideration of turning this Lions proposal from a replacement for Jefferson to a replacement for Lufkin, and demolish and rebuild Jefferson in its current location like Elmhurst did.
Anything else down here?
I just have one quick question.
Kevin? Yes.
Regarding the survey, would the results be made public, or the write-in results be made public?
Yeah, I think that they should be they're all in the report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Yes, Tucker.
Okay. You've got 3 different charts. You've got a page on 143, 143, 157, and 156. And my question on those is that you're going on 143, you're talking about 63% of the community indicated that they would use a community center daily for 50% and 13% weekly. On The page 157, you spoke of 51% seasonally using the facility, which I'm sure you're speaking of the pools themselves, aqua centers. And then on 156, you've got 51% that wouldn't use at all. Now, are we speaking pools or are we speaking the community center? Because you've got a lot of statistics in there, and then you've got, basically right now, you've got a split of 50-50 between, as you pointed out, that want an aqua center and 50% that want a community center, but there's no proof that the residents would make use of both of them. We've got a split in this village that a lot of them just want the pool, and a lot of them just want the community center. There is no statistics in what you gave us to say we've got a big percentage that would use both, from what I'm looking for your charts.
Well, let me look for that. I'll take that down, that question, and when I get back to my hotel.
I mean, I'm kind of curious, because I
will look for that
looked
question.
through that on,
But we asked it in separate questions, so we didn't actually ask them the way you're putting it into those. But I will look for that and look for the crosstab on that as well, okay?
I also know we didn't put a question in, and that's not your fault, our question, if our residents would use the pool at all. We made a question on the pool stuff, on asking a percentage on what part they use of the pool, but we didn't actually put a question in that said, do you care if there's a pool at all in this village? We missed that.
No, we didn't ask that
because we didn't ask that question, if our residents even care if there's a pool in our village, because we missed that question. And that was something we didn't ask, because that would be an interesting percentage too when you put out there the 50-50. There may be a majority of the people in this town that just
There was
didn't
over
care if there was a pool or
20% of
not.
people said they wouldn't use it at all. So that tells me that, so. And there's always going to be people who won't use something. You got a brand new library coming up here. There's
That
always
might
going to
not
be
use
people
it
that aren't
either.
going
I
to use
understand
that. I mean, that's not a reality. It's just part of people's comfort level and what they get it to.
Well, I understand, but we didn't sway our question to find out that. We kind of left our questions that they had to make a decision on the pool instead of leaving a question on the bottom saying wouldn't use, period. Not, don't care.
And I'll
And that was something we overlooked on to find out if maybe they really don't care if there's a pool at all.
Yeah.
We kind of swayed it one way or another for our residents, thinking that they would all use the pool, period. You put in the percentage thing, which I was kind of curious, that you said we had 96% cost recovery, or 57 for the rec center for a 6-year. Where'd you come up with an idea of that? Is that a joint thing that you came up with that figure? That
It's
there's a
based on a set of
possibility?
assumptions of the capacity, use of the rooms by program, and then what kind of revenue can come out of programs for those spaces, using the program costs that you currently have in place, okay? And so that's where typically what you see in a community or center is that memberships either make up somewhere between 50 to 60% of the total revenue of a center. And the way you operate, I'm not saying it's wrong or right, you basically get most of all of your revenue. You get a little bit from day passes or from 10 punch passes, but the majority of it is not from a membership, okay? And that's just a different in philosophy. I talked to Greg and Gina about this, and I said, if you get into that, that's something to really consider if you're really looking at this. But a lot of agencies, when they want to do a study like this, or they want to put a business plan, they basically state the cost recovery goal that they're looking for, okay? And when they state it, it requires the designer to design to that cost recovery goal. And that's not where we are at this point. We're talking about full big block spaces.
So the first question that Trustee Tucker had that you were going to put together,
Yeah,
she'll probably be at the Parks meeting tomorrow night. You're
That's
going to be there
fine,
too,
yeah.
so.
I want to make sure I look up those two questions, okay?
Okay. Trustee Ciala.
How you doing? It's not really a question, but maybe it'll help Cheryl on the draft copy on page 147. Question 16 was a pie chart that asked if you or members of your household visited Jefferson or Lufkin pools in the past 2 seasons. It's a pie chart that takes that 46% said no, 51% said yes, and 3% was unsure.
Correct, but it did not ask the question if they would not use a pool at all. It's a percentage of people, so there's a lot of people in this town that would, on that question, would have answered differently if there was an option of not using a pool at all. Because that was kind of swayed and it wasn't their fault.
I thought you were trying to gauge what percentage of the public would use a facility this type.
That was a percentage that I took of people that actually do go to the pool at all. Not a question to people that don't use the facility, either pool at all. They have no desire at all for a pool, period.
Okay, I was just trying to point out that chart.
Yeah, I did read the chart. I read it over. I looked at it several times, but when you look at that question and on the thing, it's judging people that actually would use the pool at one time or another.
Well, that usage would also change if you ask the question, when we get down the road a little farther, what kind of amenities do you want in the pool? Do you want the lazy river? Do you want the hot water?
That's all going to change.
And that'll change the number of people that come to the pool. So, but we'll get down the road on that.
Right. I know that those would make difference, but we didn't open a question to people in the village to actually say, I don't really care if there's a pool or not, I don't swim, period.
Right.
We kind of directed it to that everybody in this village use the pool one way or another, or were interested in using the pool.
Okay. Trustee Patrick.
One last question, and it might have been answered already, so I apologize if I'm asking it again, but what is the board's timeline on our projects going forward? When do we anticipate working through all of these questions, what facilities we would like, and then a timeline of when we could get this construction underway, if that's what is if that's what's voted on?
Well, that's up to the board to decide, but we have to, a lot of the information we need first is, how much is it going to cost, what's going to be in it, how are we going to raise the money. So I think the first step would be to figure out what type of rec center do we want.
Okay.
Well, first off, it's going to be where are we going to have it, how many square foot, and what do we want in it, in the same way with the pool. So,
is this going to be part of our long-term strategic planning?
Because I would say, yes, it's going to be part of our long-term strategic planning.
Okay.
And then we have to figure out, how we're going to finance it. We got some suggestions on corporate donations, property taxes. The residents were pretty clear about property taxes in the survey. So our long-term planning, we can probably discuss that.
Okay.
That's in October, right?
October 5th.
October 5th. Yes, trustee.
Just one last comment. I like the idea that just was discussed about determining the recoverable costs, determine where we think the recoverable costs need to be, because we will most probably find that we're going to have to compromise from some perspectives. And we can look at it from two perspectives. The perfect world, if we had a perfect world and all the money we could get, what would we want in it? But it's good to determine a recoverable cost and to know that in many instances it's 50 to 60%. It gives us something to work on to come up with the other 50 to 40%, and then determine, somewhat work it backwards to determine what amenities can we accommodate without having to raise property taxes, and then make a decision to move forward with those variables. So thank you for sharing that input.
Yeah, thank you. Any other last questions? Seeing none, we thank you very much, Leon, for your presentation. It was very informative, and I'm sure you'll have more questions tomorrow at the Parks and Rec Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to the next item. Number 6 on the agenda is appointment to boards and commissions. We have the Environmental Concerns Commission, Adam Hudson, appointed from today till April 30th, 2022, and Adam Hudson to the Community Pride Commission, till today till 2022, April. Adam's sitting here in the front row there, so if anybody put a name, face to the name. Also, Traffic and Safety Commission, we have Grace Visser from today till April 30th, 2022. And the Parks and Rec Commission, Robert Allen is going to fill out a vacant position. His appointment would be from today until April 30th, 2020. So I have a motion for the appointments. Trustee Wagner.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
You guys want to flip for it? Cielo will take it. Okay. All right.
Trustee Cielo?
Cielo, okay. With that, we have a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
No vote.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Salella?
Yes.
President Bolfus?
It's not a no vote, it goes with the majority.
Okay. Yes. So it should be, your vote will be recorded with the majority.
I'm sorry.
Your vote will be recorded with the majority.
Oh, I understand.
Okay.
I abstain from voting for them.
Okay. Thank you. All right, next item is the consent agenda, which is the minutes from the board meeting of July 22nd, 2019, and the bill listing for the week of July 22nd, July 29th, and August 5th in the total amount of $1,431,743.59. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda? Trustee Kazone?
Mr. President, I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second? Trustee Wagner?
I'll second that motion.
Any questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Salella?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
President Bolfus?
Yes. Number 8 is a second reading of an ordinance to be codified. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. Traffic studies are an important component of property developments. Traffic studies evaluate existing traffic volumes and patterns along adjacent roadways and estimate traffic changes which may result from a proposed development. This information is critical in designing site plans that promote safety and minimize traffic delays. Village staff has prepared updated traffic study regulations to better ensure that new developments can function adequately without safety issues or additional traffic congestion. Public Works and Community Development staff request the Village Board approve the ordinance adopting these new traffic study regulations. Thank you, Your Honor.
I'd like a motion for the second reading of the adoption of the new traffic study guidelines. Trustee Wagner.
President Bolfus, I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second? Trustee Kazone.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Salella?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
President Bolfus?
Yes. Item number 9A is an ordinance authorizing and providing for the issuance of $2,735,000 general obligation bonds, sales tax alternative revenue source, Series 2019A, for the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, for the purpose of financing certain village-wide stormwater public infrastructure projects, including, but not limited to, stormwater drainage improvements in connection with the Jackson Pond, improvement projects to Astor Court and Myrtle Avenue improvement project, and a portion of the Michigan Ave improvement project, Madison Street to Jackson Street, within the village. Prescribe the details of said bonds, provide for the imposition of taxes sufficient to pay for the same, and the collection and segregation and application of certain village revenue to pay said bonds. Manager Keeney, you want to read that one again?
Thank you, Your Honor. This ordinance will approve the third and final tranche of stormwater alternate revenue bonds to be used for the stormwater project. Pricing for the bonds will occur today, Monday, August 12th, based on market conditions. The market conditions are favorable and fair. Rates are as expected. There is no reason to believe that they will not. The Village Board will be asked to approve a version of the attached ordinance that will be populated with priced bond information. Spear Financial, the village's financial advisor, will be able to advise if the rates and structure are in the village's best interest. The bonds are expected to close in late August. Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm sure we have Director Wachtel here is glad to tell us what kind of interest rates we have, and I believe these are what, 13-year bonds or somewhere around that?
Yeah, good evening. So today we had the bond sale for this, for the 2019 A and B, or the bond pricing, I should say. These bonds, the 2019 A bonds, those are going to be paid off in 2034, so about 13 or 14 years. And the true interest cost for those bonds were about 2.64%. So to put that in kind of some historical context, last year, the storm sewer bonds, we had a true interest cost, or our TIF refunding bonds last fall were about 2.95% for true interest cost, and our storm sewer bonds last year were about 3.27%. So these rates are definitely better than they have been in the past, which is good news for us. We've got the folks from Anthony Maselli from Spear Financial. They're our financial advisor. They're here on hand, as well as the folks from George K. Baum. They're the underwriting firm who is actually coordinating the purchase of the bonds from us. They are here as well tonight if there are any other questions. But it was a good process, process we've gone through in the past, where the bonds go out to market and we get the best rate that's available to us. And I think we got a good interest rate for what we are looking to do. And it's an overall debt structure that fits within our overall program and plan, not just the storm sewer bonds, but also the other bonds that we're going to be talking about next. That all fits into our debt repayment structure, our long-term plan to well debt service payments, overall all village debt payment or debt instruments that we have outstanding. So it's been a good process. We've appreciated working with all of our bond team and appreciate the board moving forward with all of these, with acquiring the funds for these needed projects, being able to finish these the roads and the storm sewers that we have going on. So.
Maybe you could also tell us what monies we're using to guarantee these bonds.
Well, these are actually sales tax alternate revenue bonds. So while we are pledging sales taxes for them, we're not actually using sales tax money for that. We implemented a couple years ago some additional storm sewer fees on residents' bills every single month that go out with the garbage and water rates. So that is the money that is actually used to pay down the bonds. We are using sales tax as an alternate revenue as a backstop. In the event that that money was not available, we would have to use sales tax. Really, we do that so that the folks that are buying the bonds have some reasonable assurance that there's going to be funds available to pay to make those debt service payments. Because really what they are doing is they're making an investment for a period of up to 13 years. And so they want to have some assurance that they're going to get their principal plus the interest back throughout the, whenever their specific bonds mature.
Okay. I thought it was important for the residents to know where this money was coming from. So. The manager has to, maybe you want to mention the bond rating?
Yes. Well, we continue to be very pleased. We have maintained our AA bond rating with a very stable outlook.
I just assumed that.
So that continues based on our work with having a flexible budget, having good liquidity, meaning we've got cash available on hand that's available to reallocate should the need arise. We don't want it to arise, but it's available in case we do need that. So our bond rating is available on all the bond websites and all that. So folks that are interested.
And it goes back to the report we got at our last board meeting,
right,
when we had the auditor's report.
Absolutely, it all meshes together. It's all part of it. So
right.
Yep.
Okay. So why don't you just don't go too far, because we'll ask a question on the next one. Trustee Tucker.
Okay. For somebody that's not financial up here, true interest rates. What's the difference between interest rate and true interest rate?
That's a specific calculation. I'm going to turn that over to Anthony. I'm going to be able to.
I think it's true when that's what you're paying.
Oh, yeah.
So the true interest rate is a calculation that not only takes into account the interest on the bonds, but also some of the fees paid. And it also takes into account the time value of money. So it is a rate today for what you're paying on the bonds, present valued back to today, take into account the fees.
Now, We've locked
clear
it
as
in
mud.
this way? Is that what it is? Yeah, it's clear as bell.
Yes, the rate is locked
Okay,
in
so
as of
this
today.
is the rate that's locked in for this. This won't change if the interest rate skyrockets. We're locked into this percentage, right?
Yep, as of
Okay.
today.
So it's
Soon
not
as-
going to balloon on us.
As soon as the bond purchase agreement is signed.
As soon as it's signed, it's
And we got
locked
it
into
right
this
here.
point. Okay, well, that's what I'm asking. As soon as it's signed, it's locked into that. So it's a rate that's not going to be changing or jumping up and down. We've got it set.
That's
what it
correct.
is.
That's part of the reason we handle our bond deals this way. We give you the ordinance and we do the pricing today. We actually had a pricing call this morning. They opened it up for sale and an order window, and we determined the final structure earlier today, and then we have the bond purchase agreement as part of that's signed also today, so that all of that can happen. We lock in the rate on the exact today's market rates, so the bond investors and the village all can come to an agreement today on what those rates are, so we don't have to deal with any modifications in the future, any changes. It's all being purchased or priced today.
Okay, I think we need a motion on this. So do I have a motion for the ordinance? Trustee Wagner?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Trustee Casella?
A second.
Second. Any more questions? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Okay, trustee Gazone,
Yes.
trustee Tucker,
Yes.
trustee Patrick,
Yes.
trustee Murphy,
Yes.
trustee Sillella,
Yes.
trustee Wagner,
Yes.
President Bolt.
Yes. Item 9B is an ordinance providing for the issuance of $4,745,000 general obligation bonds, Series 2019B, for the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, the proceeds of which to be used for the purpose of paying for costs of certain street and related improvements in the village and costs related thereto, and to the issuance of such bonds, and providing for the levy and collection of the direct annual tax for the payment of the principal and interest on said bonds. Andrew Keenan.
Thank you, Your Honor. This ordinance will approve the third and final tranche of road referendum bonds, which were approved by voters in November of 2014. Pricing for the bonds will occur on Monday, August 12th today, based on market conditions. If the market provides fair and favorable rates as expected, there is no reason to believe it will not. The village board will be asked to approve a version of the attached ordinance that will be populated with price to bond information. Spear Financial, the village's financial advisor, will be able to advise if the rates and structure are in the village best interest. The bonds are expected to close in late August. Thank you, Your Honor.
So a motion for the ordinance, trustee Kazone?
Mr. President, I'll make the motion.
We have a second, trustee Wagner?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, well, let's have a little presentation again. The percentage rate and where's this money coming from?
So this rate, the true interest cost is actually lower on this one, 2.38%. We're very pleased with that. This money is coming from the road bond referendum that was approved in 2014. That gives us, the voters approved $23 million, issuing us issuing $23 million in road bonds, or bonds to be used for various roads throughout the community. That's an authorization that is provided for 5 years, so we're coming up on 5 years now, and we are issuing these bonds now before that authorization expires. We do have plenty of roads that still need to be done that were part of that overall project. So this will be funded by property taxes levied directly on property tax bills. When this referendum in 2014 was established or was being discussed, we contemplated, I think it was about a $2.9 million on property tax bills that would be going towards debt service. So we've used that as a target for all of the village's property tax supported debt. That's the level that we have targeted as property tax funds to be paying down debt service, whether it's for road bonds or if it's for the TIF bonds and things like that. So that all goes into the hopper, and we are attempting to maintain level debt service at that amount that was discussed as part of the referendum. We felt that the voters agreed to that level of property tax debt service payments, so we've been keeping all of our debt service at that level. So we're pleased with that. We've got some very good rates. We both the 20 2015 and the 2019 road bonds have been better interest rates than we were expecting, so we've been very pleased about that.
How long are these due? 2033, 20?
I don't know exactly. 2030? 2034 as well.
Same thing, huh? Okay. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, I have a roll call.
Okay, Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Silella?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
President Wolfus?
Yes. Okay, item 10 is public comments on non-agenda items for Connecticut. Do we have any summed up?
Yes, Kevin Wachtel has something.
Oh, okay.
I just took my finance director hat off, and I'm putting my Lions Club hat on. I'm the treasurer of the Villa Park Lions Club. Excuse me. And I wanted to let the community know that the Lions Club is putting together, or it's starting a 50-50 raffle. So you may see some of these posters around town advertising our 50-50 raffle. And just so folks have an understanding of what we're trying to do, this is a 50-50 raffle. We're going to be selling tickets throughout August and through most of September, and half of the money is going to be given to the winner. The other half is going to be split between Willowbrook High School scholarships. We're going to be increasing the scholarships that the Lions Club gives to graduating seniors, and also some of that money is going to go to Lions Club charities, so like Seeing Eye Dogs and eyeglasses, vision and hearing issues for folks in the community and elsewhere. Many people don't know the Lions Club handles charitable efforts throughout the nation, throughout the world, and whenever there's big hurricane reliefs and things like that in other countries, the Lions Club is there to help serve those folks. So the charitable donations that the Lions Club generates goes to some of those types of efforts. But I would encourage folks, find a Lions Club member, buy tickets. They're $5 for one ticket, or 5 tickets for $20. We're selling them at the Thursday night concerts. We'll be selling them at the first 3 home Willowbrook High School football games. As a matter of fact, the drawing will be at the high school football game versus Addison Trail, so we're hoping to have lots of folks buy tickets to get that pot really high. We're guaranteeing a minimum $1,000 grand prize for the winner, and we hope to see lots of people support this 50-50 raffle, so we have a lot of money to be able to give to graduating Willowbrook seniors. So we're very excited about this, and we hope to see you at the concerts buying tickets, and we hope that you're the winner.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Clerk?
That's it.
Anyone else from the public have any comments on the non-agenda items? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move down to the clerk's report.
No report tonight.
Okay. Trustees' report, we'll start on my right. Trustee Patrick?
Good.
Okay. Trustee Ciala?
First, I'd like to thank the police and fire for their night out at the Iowa Community Center last week. It was well attended and quite entertaining for all age groups, and also to our vendors and some of our local businesses that donated school supplies to some of the younger children there. It was a good time for all. Secondly, I was wondering if we can get some sort of a progress report on St. Charles Road Bridge, where we're at with that, how it's going, if we're on time.
Cross that off my list. Can we have a project report on the bridge? I know there was some concern about the AT&T not responding as fast as they promised to move some fiber optic cables, but I know our staff worked hard on get them out there as soon as we could.
That's correct. And actually, as of this morning, those cables are now gone. So AT&T had originally represented an earlier date for completion of their work. Unfortunately, they did not meet that, and so we've been delayed just a bit. But as of this morning, they are off the bridge, and our contractor is free to proceed.
Good. So I think they're taking some of the support structure apart now?
Correct. They are currently working on demolition of the north half of the bridge.
Okay.
And also the goal on Ardmore Track, are we on target with that?
Yes. If anything, we may even be ahead of schedule. They had originally represented Friday for completion date. We expect at no later than Friday, but possibly earlier than that.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, and on the Ardmore Track, for the residents, we didn't find out about that until, was it Tuesday or Wednesday last week?
If not later.
So we worked the hardest we could to get the word out there. I think staff went out there, put notices on all the cars in the parking lots, and we put some on the village websites. We got sent out a code red on it. But it was a little late, but it sort of caught us off guard. So we had no idea. So, okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Kazone.
Kevin, hang on just a second. I just want a quick question, too. I saw that Michigan Avenue is going to get delayed. Did I read about that?
The Kenilworth to Central section.
Okay.
Correct.
Is the contractor, does he have any, like, late penalties on that?
That one's not even actually out to bid yet, so we don't have a contractor yet. The holdup on that is the EPA loan funding.
Okay. Okay.
So, the process is taking quite a bit longer. EPA is very slow at the moment in their reviews.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Before you go down, what about Princeton?
Princeton is had been waiting for a valve repair to take place. A DuPage Water Commission valve needed some attention, and that took place last week. And so now we're just scheduling the work to get the contractor back in and complete paving and restoration. A letter actually did go out to residents on Princeton today to let them know that we're looking at a late August time frame for restoration and then an early September time frame for paving.
Trustee Wagner.
Thank you, President Bullis. I just had a couple things. The Traffic and Safety Commission will be meeting here at Village Hall tomorrow at 8 p.m. Of course, members of the public are invited. Wanted to just remind people about Love Your Neighbor Day, which is going to be Saturday, September 28th. The deadline to get into the projects that they'll be undertaking is nearing, but currently they have 24 projects, and there's an increase. I think at least half of them are in Villa Park, which is good news, because we'd like to, obviously we want to help Lombard residents, but we want to help Villa Park residents more. So, so they really are in need of volunteers. So this may have been mentioned before, but if you go to www.ccvponline.net, that's Christian Church Villa Park Online.net, you can get an application form. And you don't have to be a carpenter or have any special trade. You can do yard work. There's plenty of opportunities to help your fellow neighbors. So I just want to mention that.
That's a program through the Christian Church, right?
Christian Church of Villa Park, right. But there are other churches around that are helping out. Just want to remind folks about a solar hour that's going to take place at Iowa Community Center on Tuesday, August 27th, room number 10, 7 to 9 p.m. If you're interested about installing solar panels on your house, this is a great program to find out about that. And just lastly, kudos to the Village Pride Commission on their sidewalk party that they had Sunday. There was a great turnout. Trustee Murphy and I were both there, and of course Chief Lay was working the grill, and I think they had a really large number. Mian Drakina was there as well, and they had a pretty large turnout. They're currently accepting applications for their landscape awards, and I think the deadline is August 23rd. And I looked online, I couldn't find the application, but maybe I was looking in the wrong place, so I don't know. But it should be online. So, and then lastly, they're kind of doing something special at the entrance to Villa Park from the east on the Prairie Path. There's a little landscaped area, and what they're doing, and they were doing this at the sidewalk party yesterday, they were having kids just decorating stones. And this is kind of a popular thing now, positive messages. And so there's going to be a little display as if you're walking down the Prairie Path and you enter from the east, you'll see that little area where there'll be stones that are decorated. So kind of a nice area, and kind of, I think will beautify the area as well. So that's all I had.
Thank you. Trustee Tucker?
To put up your stones, they're already up there. You can come from the entrance from Addison, coming north to south. The first tree has the stones starting to come around it. They're beautiful. So, just want to mention, there's a lot of things going on this week at Cortese and here. First of all, the Park and Rec Advisory meeting will be at Iowa tomorrow at 7 p.m. For those that weren't able to come tonight, you did hear he will be doing the presentation and talking to the Park and Rec Commission tomorrow night at Iowa. So if you didn't get everything answered, you're welcome to come ask some more questions tomorrow from them. Second thing, with the kids going back to school, Jefferson Pool, as of Wednesday, August 14th, the weekday hours will change from 4 to 8 p.m. For the pool, and there is evening daily admission for $5. So if you're interested in doing that, if it all of a sudden heats up this week really hot, Jefferson Pool will still be open in the evening. Thursday, we briefly had Helen tell us about summer concerts in the park. Concessions opens at 6 p.m. Concert begins at 6:30 at Cortese. This week's band will be the Way Outs. So you might want to check the website to see what type of a band it is, or just come out anyway. We have a great time on Thursday nights. Saturday in Cortese Park, there will be the big rigs for the kids. So those of you that, adults or kids that love the big fire trucks, they will be at Cortese Park from 10 to 12 o'clock. As they are Flyer State, all ages are welcome. So don't be shy if you want to climb on the big rigs. They're going to be out there at Cortese Park on Saturday morning for everybody. That is all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Murphy?
Okay, I've got a couple. I received a fun flyer in the mail from Mike celebrating 50 years in Villa Park. So I'm anticipating most residents probably receive that every Saturday in August. Mike's is having an event out, I'm anticipating, in their parking lot area with grilling demonstrations and different things in celebration of their 50 years. So thanks to Mike's for being in Villa Park for 50 years, and I encourage everyone in the area on Saturdays during August to pop over there and participate in their celebration. A couple more things. I believe that on August 24th, Villa Park Inland Bank is hosting a shredding event. So everybody pull together all your papers that need to be shredded. I believe you get 3 boxes of shredding per person. So get it together and get it over there. It's always a wonderful opportunity at no cost to get rid of your shredding. Let's see, we did the chalkboard event already. And a thank you to Trustee Wagner, who turned me on to the York Township Electronic Recycling Center. Stopped over there today to drop off a huge, enormous box of rocks television that it took 4 people to lift into the truck. It is right behind the Goodwill store on Roosevelt Road. It's open 7 days a week, and there is no charge. Every other alternative above and beyond our own village is charging $25 to $35 per television. So it's wonderful to have a no-fee option, and there's a young man over there with a lift truck and all kinds of wonderful equipment to help you get those big, nasty TVs out of your vehicles. So if for some reason you can't make our 3rd Saturday of the month, it was just a really, really good alternative. So thank you to Trustee Wagner on that. And that about does it for me.
I have one thing to add. You'll let
Okay.
me? Okay. To go with the big rigs and the kids, don't forget they're doing that helicopter ball drop at Lions Park
That's Easter Seal.
at 12:30 to, so I was going to mention that too, that a combination of doing that, that's their big fundraiser, so.
Okay, with that, we'll move to the President's report, and everybody's covered everything I had written down, so we don't need to hear it again. So we'll move on to the manager's report.
Most of my items are covered, but if I'm not mistaken, I think this Saturday is recycling for the village here from 9 to noon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is the third Saturday.
With that, Your Honor, I pass. Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Actually, we do have a new employee in our audience, and her name is Gabby Gutierrez. Would you like, would you like to come up and introduce yourself?
Sure you would. Tell us where you went to school and your degree.
So my name's Gabby Gutierrez, full name Gabriella, in case you were wondering. I graduated from Bradley University a little over a year ago, apparently. I don't really know where the time went, but I do all of the communications, so social media, anything like that. If you ever need anything at all, let me know. My email's on the website. That's about it.
Welcome aboard. You'll probably see Gabby around town taking pictures if you have events or something going on. So if you see her, say hi. So okay. Thank you very much and welcome on board. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Trustee Kazone.
Mr. President, I'll make that motion.
And Trustee Sella says second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
With that, we're adjourned. We'll be back on the 26th of this month at 7 o'clock.